Part 38. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 371. The Blood Sea spread, covering the four kings of Lulan Star. The four kings obviously did not realize the coming of the crisis, thinking that Shivali would act with them to completely kill Su Xian. Little did they know that from the moment the Blood Sea covered and blocked the outside world's perception, this place has become their grave. Let me do it. The first time Shivali rushed out, the Blood Sea surged wildly, closed the surrounding space, and fought with the Blood Clone. The four kings still did not think much. They only felt that this battle was very fierce. Shivali still maintained a high combat power. With Shivali, plus them, Su Xian had no chance of winning this battle. Their vigilance was relaxing little by little. At this moment, the Blood Sea parted, and the figure of Shivali flew out backwards and landed beside the four kings. This guy is even stronger. Shivali's face was gloomy. It seems that I still need your help today. Your Majesty is the strategic core of Lulan Star. You have more important things to do. It's not worth fighting with King Kinji. Just leave it to us next. The four kings were eager to merge the fragments of Chaos Stone. It's better if Shivali can't beat Su Xian. They also have the opportunity to go to the next level. Under Su Xian's gaze, the four kings took out their own fragments of Chaos Stone. The four excited people didn't realize that Shivali had quietly circled behind them. Just as the four kings were about to merge the fragments of Chaos Stone, they felt a sharp pain in their backs, and their souls seemed to be cut by something. It made them unable to do anything for a while. I'm sorry, everyone. The fragments of Chaos Stone belong to me. Shivali smiled and snatched the fragments of Chaos Stone from the hands of the four kings. You. Why did you betray us? Shivali, you will die. The four kings were filled with hatred, and they felt their vitality dissipating bit by bit, but they could do nothing. Shivali's attack just now sealed their souls and bodies at the same time. They couldn't even communicate now. This thing should have belonged to me. Until this moment, Su Xian had not revealed his true identity, and was still talking to the four kings as Shivali, which made the four kings die with their eyes wide open. They really didn't understand that with Shivali's strength, it was a sure thing to achieve the position of demigod. Why use such an unconventional thing as the fragment of the Chaos Ore? Damn Shivali, has he been so arrogant that he doesn't even care about the overall situation of the entire Lulan Star? Doesn't Shivali know that once they die, it will be infinitely difficult to kill Su Xian again, and there will be no chance to kill Su Xian in the future? The consciousness of the four kings dissipated bit by bit. Being attacked at such a close distance, they had no other result except to die with hatred. The four great kings died. Su Xian smiled. He played with the fragments of Chaos Stone in his hand, feeling the powerful chaos force emanating from them. Unfortunately, these fragments were stained with the power of the God's messenger. If it were pure Chaos Stone fragments, the effect would be better for him. I don't know if it can be dispelled. Su Xian thought in his heart that he dared not use the Chaos Stone stained with the power of the God's messenger indiscriminately, nor could he give it to his disciples at will, otherwise it would probably bring disaster. It would be best to dispel the power of the God's messenger before using it. Daisy said that most life forms could not use Chaos Stone without being refined by the God's messenger, just like an uncontrollable bomb that could explode at any time. But Su Xian could clearly feel his desire for the power of Chaos Stone. He tried to drip a few drops of blood into the Chaos Stone fragments. Zzz. The blood fell on the fragments of the original stone, making a burning sound. His blood was indeed purifying the power of the God in the fragments. The power of the God is ultimately a rootless source. In front of Su Xian's blood, it was quickly dispelled. Unfortunately, the fragments of the Chaos original stone were also melted a lot, becoming a smaller piece. The four fragments added up to only the size of a little finger. But it's better to have it than not. Su Xian was in a good mood. With the system, the 4 small fragments given to the disciples can also return a lot of treasures. Maybe there is a chance to return a large piece of complete chaos original stone to him. Outside the Blood Sea, the armies of both sides and the demigods at the border of the sky were all paying attention to the second collision between the 2 strongest kings. It's just that the aura of the battle between the 2 was too strong. They couldn't see clearly what was happening in the Blood Sea. Even the demigods at the border of the sky couldn't see through it. After all, the 1000 Machine King and Chevalier were infinitely close to them. At such a long distance, their perception couldn't penetrate into the Blood Sea at all. They were all worried. After all, the outcome between the 2 strongest kings might determine the direction of the situation in the battlefield between the 2 worlds. The Blood Sea was rolling. The battle lasted for a long time. 3 days and 3 nights. When the Blood Sea dissipated, a stream of light flew out of the Blood Sea and fled in the direction of the 5th Defense Line base. That was Su Xian. In this battle, Chevalier won. The army of Lulin Star cheered deafeningly. The last time Chevalier escaped, morale plummeted. This time it was a slap in the face of Blue Star. Qinji King. That's all. It was just luck that they won last time. The demigods of Lauren Star at the border of the sky felt that something was wrong with this matter, and they all frowned. In their perception, Su Xian and Chevalier were equally powerful. It was hard to say who would win or lose. But this time, there were 4 kings carrying the fragments of the Chaos Stone to help kill Su Xian. Any of these 4 people would be very powerful after fusing the fragments of the Chaos Stone. How could they not kill Su Xian? They could no longer sense the breath of those 4 people. Obviously, those 4 people had died in the Blood Sea. If Su Xian also forcibly entered the demigod realm, they could barely accept this result. But Su Xian's breath was just a little weak, and he did not forcefully break through the realm. After recuperation, he could continue to fight. Lauren Star did not get any benefits except boosting morale. What happened in the Blood Sea? They didn't know. It seems that they can only wait for Chevalier to return and then ask Chevalier. Retreat. Retreat. After the exhibition match, Su Xian gave an order and led the Lulin Star army to retreat. It must be said that it feels really good to play with the opponent like a fool. He estimated that after this time, Lulin Star would doubt him, especially Daisy, who was suspicious by nature, and would never easily believe his reasons. But he didn't care. If they didn't believe him, he would immediately give up. If they didn't allow him to give up, then they would start to quarrel. Anyway, they would not lose. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 372. When Su Xian retreated back to the base camp of Lauren Star, Daisy was already waiting for him. Daisy's face was not good. She looked at Chevalier gloomily. What happened in the Blood Sea? How could the 4 demigods not even take down Su Xian? Daisy no longer had the humble attitude towards Chevalier before, and even had a hint of murderous intent. If Chevalier did not give her a reasonable explanation, she would not continue to believe in Chevalier in the next war, and would even apply for the demigods to imprison Chevalier. I made a mistake. Su Xian is very strong. Su Xian replied directly. I didn't expect Su Xian to have mastered the means to force a breakthrough to the demigod's strength. The parliament should have investigated this clearly long ago. Su Xian is still very good at making up stories for himself. He narrated, when Su Xian was only at the marquis level, he had the strength to enter the demigod level for a short time. Later, he killed a demigod on Blue Star by some means. He has always been very mysterious. In the battle just now, he used the same method again, so we failed. Daisy frowned. What Chevalier said made sense. Su Xian was indeed very mysterious and had used similar methods before, but she still didn't want to believe it. She thought it was Chevalier's fault. Chevalier must have some secrets hidden in him. Did Shivali become a traitor? Or did he reach some special deal with Su Xian? Or was the Shivali in front of him fake? It's hard for me to believe you now. Daisy looked at Su Xian gloomily, already on the verge of falling out. This war does rely on Shivali to a large extent, but if Shivali becomes a completely uncontrollable factor, she would rather not use it. I am also very sad about the sacrifice of several warriors. Su Xian said, you tell me what to do. This time I am willing to listen to your command to make up for the mistakes I made. It's very simple. Daisy sneered, if you can take down a defense base on Blue Star and open up the war situation for our Lulan Star, then I will believe you. No problem. Su Xian agreed without any hesitation. He also knew that at this point, Daisy's suspicion of him would become deeper and deeper, and her identity would be revealed sooner or later. If there is another accident next time, Daisy will probably ask the demigod of Lulan Star to verify his identity, and then no matter how good his acting skills are, he will be exposed. At this time, what he wants to strive for is to do more things before his identity is exposed. It would be best if he could find the legendary Chaos Stone. Su Xian is no longer interested in mythical quality equipment. He just wants to know where the Chaos Stone of Lulan Star is hidden. After 7 days, I will regroup and take down a base on Blue Star. Su Xian directly made a big promise to Daisy, if we fail again, I will not complain about how the Parliament wants to deal with us. Okay, then I will give you 7 days on behalf of the Parliament. Daisy said no more, looking at him sharply, I hope you can fulfill your promise by then, otherwise don't blame the Parliament for turning its face and being ruthless. Su Xian left. A shadow appeared behind Daisy. Go, follow Shivali, there must be something strange about him. In Daisy's heart, Shivali has long been untrustworthy, and anything that is related to Su Xian and appears strange will not be trusted by her. Yes. The shadow broke away from Daisy's body and went in the direction where Shivali left. Blue Star, Bear Country. Ula Alliance, Alchemy Laboratory. Aurora, the strongest alchemist master of Bear Country, was sitting on a chair, and in front of her were puppets controlled by silk threads. The puppets were injected with a special substance, and the breath of their bodies gradually changed. Every time she saw this scene, Aurora couldn't help but sigh, God. It's so amazing, the puppet's sorrow is simply a perfect creation. After several months of research and development day and night, with hundreds of years of precipitation and foundation, she and Xianyu and Qingqing developed the demigod-level alchemical substance puppet's sorrow. I don't know how Qingqing is doing. Since Qingqing is not familiar with puppet control, the fusion of puppet's sorrow and puppets is left to her. Xianyu and Qingqing is temporarily responsible for external command. Dr. Aurora, Longguo Peixiu wants to see you. At this moment, a holographic projection unfolded in front of Aurora. In the image, a girl was greeting her. Is Peixiu here? Aurora was pleasantly surprised, please invite Dean Pei in. There are only 5 alchemy masters in the world. Aurora has a better relationship with Peixiu. They often discuss the alchemy of eternal youth. The result is 2 people who are more than 500 years old in total. One looks like a girl of only 14 or 15 years old, and the other is a queen of 25 or 26 years old. Soon, the door of the alchemy laboratory was opened. Peixiu walked in excitedly. Dr. Aurora. Dean Pei. The two greeted each other enthusiastically. Peixiu looked at the rows of puppets in front of him and the alchemical substances that exuded a charming atmosphere, his eyes shining. Is this Qingqing's trick? Incredible. Due to Xianyu and Qingqing's departure, Aurora could not handle such a large experimental project alone, so she called Peixiu to help. Peixiu was naturally very happy. Demigod-level alchemical substances are an irresistible temptation for any alchemist. The most difficult development stage of Sorrow of the Doll has been completed. Pei Xiu only needs to read the information once and it will be easy to get started. I didn't expect Qing Qing to make such rapid progress. Looking at the neat and orderly alchemy information, Pei Xiu sighed. It seemed that Qing Qing had indeed endured a lot of hardships in the past few years and had made rapid progress. Standing on the shoulders of the giant, Qing Qing's attainments in alchemy have surpassed those old guys like them. After a few days of absorption, Pei Xiu finally finished reading the research materials, and he had many new insights in his mind. Dean Pei, is there anything that can be improved? Aurora asked. Each of their alchemy masters specializes in different fields. For example, she is good at the combination of matter, while Pei Xiu is good at the fusion of souls. If you look at things from different angles, you will see different things. Maybe Dean Pei has a new understanding of some things that she and Qing Qing didn't see for a while. Alchemy has developed to this day, and this is how it has reached its current height through step-by-step innovation. I think it could be improved here. Pei Xiu began to talk about his opinions. The two of them were discussing passionately and were quite fascinated. They did not notice at all that there were two uninvited guests sneaking into the laboratory quietly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 373. The crisis is approaching quietly. The Shadow Demon clan's infiltration skills are very good. When Pei Xiu entered the laboratory, he followed him into it. The succubi are even more terrifying and can reside in the bodies of living beings. With the Mad Lion King seriously injured and comatose, there is no top king in the Bear Kingdom. Shadow Long and Meijuan are bound to win this action. The psychic power of Meijuan slowly spread and enveloped the entire laboratory invisibly. Yinglong opened his mouth and spat out, and the attack hidden in the shadows quietly attacked the two of them. Danger! Pei Xiu, who was discussing with Aurora, finally sensed the approaching crisis. Boom! The two of them ducked to the side, and the attack from the shadows fell into the air. Pei Xiu frowned and looked at the shadow demon and succubus in front of him, and his mood instantly sank to the bottom. That's okay. The opponents are all kings of the original realm. Although she and Avrila were crowned kings, they were at the lowest level. Those who relied on special methods to forcibly break through did not have the combat power to truly become crowned kings. Facing the enemy in front of them, they may be in danger. Stop them. With Aurora's command, Doll Sorrow was activated, and all the dolls in the experimental base rushed towards Meijuan and Yinglong. You can't leave. The psychic power of the charming cuckoo was extremely powerful, and it had an invisible impact on the minds of the two of them, and their thinking slowed down. I want to access the door to the laboratory but I can't reach it. Aurora felt cold in her heart. If the War Machine Messenger of Justice was here, she might be able to barely compete with these two enemies. But the Messenger of Justice has been taken away by Qing Qing, and they have no means to compete head-on with the Origin Realm. Dean Pei, if you can't escape, I will blow up the laboratory. Even if you are buried here, the information about the death of the puppet will not fall into the hands of Luo Langxing. Aurora knew exactly why these two uninvited guests came. Doll Sorrow is an important strategic resource for Blue Star to change the current situation of the war. Lulan Star will definitely find ways to get it, but he didn't expect the enemy to come so quickly. The infiltration capabilities of the Shadow Demons and Succubus clan are too strong and difficult to guard against. Nor can they pay attention all the time. At this point, she could only destroy all the experimental materials. Anyway, Qing Qing still had a copy in his hand. As long as Qing Qing was around, they could still create the doll of Shang. Shadows flicker, minds tug. The cooperation between Yinglong and Meijuan was so strong that those puppets could not stop them at all. In just the blink of an eye, Yinglong broke through the defense and flashed in front of Aurora and Peixiu. Behind Peixiu, a holy shadow appeared. Soul threads burst out. Aurora gritted her teeth and emitted a golden light barrier. The two resisted desperately, still looking forward to the arrival of reinforcements. Why resist in vain? A very charming voice sounded in Peixiu's ears. She didn't know when a pair of hands appeared on her neck. When she turned her head, she saw a charming face nestled next to her. That kind of real touch almost made Peixiu fall. But she reminded herself that this was an illusion, this was just an illusion. If it sinks and the information falls into the hands of the succubus, that will be a real disaster. The scariest thing about the succubus family is that you know it is an illusion, but it can still quietly change your subconscious cognition. If Peixiu was not good at soul-based methods, he might have fallen. Aurora is using the small magic circle in the laboratory to resist the enemy with difficulty. The alert for help has been sent out. As long as she persists for a while, reinforcements will arrive. You have good willpower. Meijuan's soft voice echoed in Peixiu's heart, but, do you really have the heart to reject the slave family? In Peixiu's perception, it was as if a body with ice muscles and jade bones was wrapped around her body, as soft as if it were boneless, corroding her soul bit by bit. Even the holy shadow behind her gradually faded. Without the blessing of the holy shadow, she would probably fall in an instant. We can't go on like this. Peixiu reminded herself that she could feel that her mental resistance was constantly being weakened, and she could no longer even perceive the passage of time outside. This made her very insecure. A potion fell into Peixiu's hand. Without any hesitation, she injected the potion into her body the moment it appeared. Alchemists usually use this method to improve their combat effectiveness. They rely on external forces to strengthen themselves, but the increase is short-lived and causes a lot of irreversible damage to the body. Peixiu's face quickly became older. His face was covered with frowns, and his 3,000 black hairs turned into dry white hair. The shadow behind her became crystal clear. The consciousness that was on the verge of sinking was quickly pulled back. Peixiu raised his head and looked forward. Yinglong had broken the laboratory's protective formation. Aurora spurted out a mouthful of blood. Was hit hard. The next moment, Yinglong's hands turned into sharp blades and stabbed Peixiu between the eyebrows. Peixiu picked up Aurora and retreated frantically, but was still stabbed in the left shoulder by Yinglong. The gap is too big. At this moment, Peixiu felt desperate. Even though she improved her combat power in a short period of time, she was still no match for Yinglong. Afroella, do it. She looked at the weak-breathing Aurora with firm eyes, ready to be buried here. Yinglong and Meijuan also looked solemn. I thought I had to deal with only one Aurora, but I never thought that another Peixiu would come. Although his combat effectiveness was not strong, in this kind of battle against time, Peixiu obviously had a serious impact on them. Charming cuckoo, use your last resort. Yinglong looked at the pretty figure beside him. The latter nodded. She reached into her heart. Peixiu's heart began to beat, and her mind gradually became trance-like. Some strange pictures she had never seen before appeared in her mind. Is this the memory of the succubus? She was shocked, knowing that he must have been hit by some kind of forbidden spell. Before she could react, Yinglong's sharp blade had already reached the center of her eyebrows. As long as Yinglong stabbed forward again, she would definitely die. Boom! At this moment, a figure suddenly rushed in from outside the experiment. The tyrannical force gathered and suddenly pressed against Yinglong and Meijuan, but it stopped abruptly when they approached. The person who came was none other than the guardian of the capital of the Bear Country, the Silver Wolf King. He looked at the two intruders. He could easily use the power of the protective formation to suppress them with just a wave of his hand, but he did not dare to do so at this time. Because as long as he moves, both Aurora and Dinpei of the Dragon Kingdom will die. In particular, Dinpei, who came from the Dragon Kingdom, had a special status. If he died in their bear country, he would inevitably be made a fuss about. The Bear Kingdom cannot explain to the Dragon Kingdom either. It came so quickly. The mesmerizing cuckoo looked at the violent breathing Silver Wolf King with a smile. The fight seemed to last for a long time, but in fact it only lasted for more than 10 seconds. It was only due to the influence of the spiritual power that time felt slow. She winked at the Silver Wolf King. Let us go. How about one life in exchange for another? 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 374. One life for another. The Silver Wolf King looked at the two great kings of the Succubus clan and the Shadow Demon clan, and for a moment he didn't know how to make a decision. Meijuan and Yinglong looked at him calmly. It seemed like everything was under control. After a long time, Silver Wolf King said, "Okay. I promise you, I will let you two go." Silver Wolf King had to agree. The status of the two great alchemists was very high, and neither Aurora nor Peixiu could die. I have one more condition. Meijuan smiled and said, I want to take away the development information about Doll Sorrow. Impossible. Silver Wolf King immediately rejected it. Why, aren't there 2 lives worth of formula? Mei Wan sneered, aren't you the most benevolent people? So what if you share the information with us? Human life is the foundation. As long as the 2 of them are alive, they may be able to develop a more powerful formula. If they die, your human race's already weak alchemy inheritance will be cut off a lot. Neither Aurora nor Peixiu could speak at this time. They cast a look of rejection at the Silver Wolf King. Death is not scary to them. But if the recipe for Doll Sorrow falls into the hands of the enemy, the lives of tens of millions of fellow human beings will be killed or injured, and it may even directly lead to the failure of this war. Silver Wolf King hesitated. Others didn't dare to speak. I'm sorry, Dinpei, Dr. Aurora. After thinking twice, the Silver Wolf King bowed deeply to Aurora and Peixiu. This action also represents his stance. For the sake of Blue Star and the human race, he couldn't let the kings of the Shadow Demon clan and the Succubus clan take away the information about the Doll Sorrow. The consequences were beyond what he could bear. Don't worry. Meijuan smiled and said, you human race are really fake benevolence and righteousness. If the conditions are not good, we can talk about it again. The slave family doesn't want to die here. Her laughter contained a strong charm, but it had no effect on the Silver Wolf King, who was under the protection of the protective formation. How about giving half of it? Meijuan said coquettishly, you also know that when the slave family comes out, they always have to bring something back to hand over. Half of the information is okay for you, right? This time, Silver Wolf King really hesitated. Complete information must not be handed over. But even if half of the information is given to Lulin Star, it will be difficult for the latter to develop a real Doll of Sorrow in a short period of time, and it will not affect the battle situation. Dinpei and Dr. Aurora were able to greatly improve the transformation and application of the Doll Sorrow based on the existing foundation. This is a trade that can be weighed. I'll think about it. Silver Wolf King did not dare to make his own decision and immediately sent a message to the Blue Star Alliance. Although the demigods cannot directly participate in the war, they still maintain the right to make decisions and command, and some major decisions must be approved by them. After receiving the message from the Silver Wolf King, the demigods of Blue Star almost unanimously agreed. I don't want to reveal any secrets about Doll Sorrow, not even a little bit. When they were thinking about things, they had basically given up on human feelings and only weighed the pros and cons of war. It's not something we should decide. At this moment, Long Yuan stood up and said, the recipe for Doll Sorrow originally belonged to Su Xian's third disciple, Xian Yuan Qing Qing. This matter should be decided by Xianyuan Qingqing and Su Xian. Don't forget that Xianyuan Qingqing has always had a very good relationship with Peixiu, and is even considered to be half of Peixiu's disciples. What's more, there is King Wuan who will never allow us to do this. Long Yuan said in a deep voice, please think clearly, what will be the consequences if Peixiu dies? What about that? Yan Qingqing said, you also have to think clearly about what kind of situation we will be in this war if Dalshang is developed by Lulan Star. Don't forget that there are demigod-level alchemists on Lulan Star. Long Yuan stared at him, not giving in at all. Don't forget, how did Qiu Qing die last time? If Su Xian's temper was a little more violent, I'm afraid you are no longer qualified to stand here and speak. You think I'm arguing? No. I'm just protecting you. Long Yuan was desperate. Among these demigods, only he knew what Su Xian's position meant. He didn't want anyone else to make decisions about Su Xian and the people around Su Xian. It is extremely stupid to decide anything for Su Xian. Stop fighting. While the two were arguing, Tian Baiyu, the strongest demigod of Blue Star, finally stopped him and sighed, it would be better to tell Su Xian, Xianyuan Qingqing, and King Wuan about this matter. Otherwise, unnecessary misunderstandings may occur, which may result in unbearable costs. After Su Xian brutally killed Qiu Qing in Dingai King City last time, these demigods had a psychological shadow in their hearts. Now Su Xian's right to speak is even higher than any of them. It can be said that since the war started, if it were not for Su Xian's heroic performance, I am afraid that one of Blue Star's bases would have fallen. The news soon spread to the blood clones of Wuan King Baisha, Xianyuan Qingqing, and Su Xian. Although the main body is in the Blood Sea city of Lulan Star, Su Xian can still share information with the clone while only controlling a blood clone. Peixiu was caught. After understanding the whole story, Su Xian quickly made a decision. He actually didn't care much about the formula of the doll's sorrow. Because even if Luo Langxing got half of the formula, it would be impossible to restore the complete formula in a short time. And this war will end soon. At that time, it will no longer be the dolls that determine the outcome of this war. Besides, he and Peixiu have some friendship. The third brother Qingqing's alchemy can improve so fast, which is inseparable from Peixiu's careful teaching and even teaching. Besides, Peixiu once saved the fifth brother Miao Tian, and Peixiu was also in charge of the research project of the violent plague. In terms of emotion and reason, Peixiu is more important than half of the information of the doll's sorrow in his eyes. He controlled the blood clone to reply to the Blue Star Alliance, willing to exchange half of the information of the doll's sorrow for Peixiu. The eighth line of defense. Xianyuan Qingqing also received the message from the Blue Star Alliance. Aunt Qiu was captured. Before meeting the teacher, she and Aunt Qiu had the closest relationship. She could grow so fast on this path, and Aunt Qiu's help was indispensable. If there was no Aunt Qiu, even if the teacher gave her so many alchemy formulas and the doll's sorrow, she would not have been able to reach her current height. It can be said that Aunt Qiu gave her the best foundation, and the teacher raised her upper limit again and again. Both are indispensable. Concerning Aunt Qiu's life, Xianyuan Qingqing did not hesitate at all and immediately agreed to exchange half of the information of the doll's sorrow for Aunt Qiu. As the real controller of the doll's sorrow, only she knew how difficult it was to develop the doll's sorrow. She experimented for so long before she succeeded even with the complete formula. Luo Langxing only took half. Even if there was a demigod-level alchemist, it would be extremely difficult to restore it, and it might even never be restored. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 375. 15th line of defense. Wu and Wang Beisha also received the news from the Blue Star Alliance. Is Peixiu in trouble? Although he always pretended to be aloof in front of Peixiu, disdained the things in his childhood, and even hated Peixiu for making fun of him when he followed her and called her sister Xiaoxiu when he was a child. But when he really faced the crisis, he couldn't help but feel nervous. To him, Peixiu was more important than anything else. Nothing could save Peixiu's life. What a shadow demon clan! What a succubus clan! At this moment, Wu Wang was more angry than ever before, and the murderous aura continued to spread to the outside world. The entire 15th line of defense base seemed to be affected by this murderous aura. He immediately replied to the Blue Star Alliance. There was only one sentence. If Peixiu lives, he lives. If Peixiu dies, then Beixia can only die. After replying to the message of the Blue Star Alliance, Wu Wang went directly out of the 13th line of defense and fled to the distant battlefield. Bear Country, Ula Alliance Laboratory. After a short wait, the Silver Wolf King received feedback from the Blue Star Alliance. The decision of the top leaders was to exchange half of the information for Peixiu and Aurora. The Silver Wolf King breathed a sigh of relief. If the top leaders were unwilling, he would have to do it. At that time, some anger might be transferred to him, an innocent person. I promise you. The Silver Wolf King looked at Mei Wan. You can exchange half of the information for the safety of Dean Pei and Dr. Aurora. The Silver Wolf King knew very well what the attitude of the upper-level people was. The reason why the upper-level leaders were willing to exchange this time was probably because Dean Pei from Longguo was deeply involved. If only Dr. Aurora was arrested, the upper-level leaders might not let go at all. Then set up a word spirit restriction. Mei Wan smiled and said, if you don't set up a word spirit restriction, I don't trust you selfish humans. In fact, Mei Wan had already made plans before sneaking in. If you are discovered, then exchange as much information as possible and leave, which is better than dying together. Anyway, they didn't lose much. At most, it would increase the difficulty of the next infiltration. The Silver Wolf King did not hesitate and immediately set up the word spirit restriction. Meijuan and Yinglong then loosened the restrictions on Peixiu and Aurora. At this time, Peixiu and Aurora had nothing to say. The word spirit restriction had been set up and they had no way to deal with it. What surprised them most was that the upper level was willing to give Lulangxing half of the information on the doll's sorrow, which was not like the style of the upper level at all. Especially at this critical moment of the war between the two worlds. Thank you both. Meijuan took the information on the doll's sorrow, waved to Peixiu and Aurora, and made a flying kiss. If it weren't for the enemy, few people could resist the charming posture of the succubus. The Silver Wolf King gritted his teeth and sent Meijuan and Yinglong out of the city. He was also responsible for this matter. If he always turned on the monitoring program of the protective formation, perhaps the succubus and shadow demon tribes would not be allowed to infiltrate. Unfortunately, it was too late to regret. He could only watch the kings of the succubus and shadow demons leave the Bear Country and return to the battlefield between the two worlds. Meijuan and Yinglong, who had obtained the information, left the city and left the defense base with the help of the word spirit restriction set by the Silver Wolf King. They thought that after leaving the base, nothing could track them. What they didn't know was that at the same time they left, the great prophet Moira of Destiny in the Dingai King city of the distant Dragon Country passed a message to Su Xian. With the help of the wooden staff of the nine-tailed fox, Moira was able to make a brief contact with Su Xian. Whoosh! In the Blood Sea city of Lulan Star, Su Xian left quietly. With his current realm, except for the nine-tailed fox senior and those god envoys, other strong men including those demigods could not monitor his movements. Meijuan and Yinglong, who had just left the 8th defense line, were in excitement at this time. With this half of the information, perhaps the situation could be reversed again. The Forgotten plus the doll's sorrow can definitely become a nightmare for Blue Star. The two of them hid their bodies and kept flying towards the direction of Lauren Star. The contact of the 10,000 Races Council should have been waiting for them. At this moment, a bright red figure fell from the sky. Your Majesty Shivali. Seeing the contact, Meijuan and Yinglong were shocked at the same time. You are here to contact us in person. Yes, Su Xian nodded. You two did a good job. He smiled and walked towards the two demons. Yinglong and Meijuan paused in their hearts, thinking of what happened before Shivali. Her Majesty Daisy obviously didn't believe Shivali, so why would she send Shivali to contact such an important thing? They took a step back at the same time. Su Xian still smiled. You can go with the information. I'll cover you. Yinglong and Meijuan were half believing and half doubting. Puff. However, just when they turned around, the invisible soul blade suddenly attacked. At such a close distance, they couldn't even cast the life last words spell. One strike. Two King Origin Realm fell. Su Xian put the bodies of the two into the space. It has to be said. Shivali's identity is useful. As long as it is not too extreme, he can do whatever he wants on Lulan Star. Just when he was about to pack up and sneak back to continue playing the spy game, a huge movement suddenly came from the battlefield not far away. What's going on? Su Xian looked ahead with concentration. This murderous aura? So strong. Is it King Wuan? The place where the murderous aura erupted was clearly a camp of the Lulan Star army. Wasn't King Wuan guarding the 15th line of defense? How could he suddenly appear in such a place? Could it be because of Pei Xiu's matter? Whoosh. Thinking of this, Su Xian immediately fled to the camp. King Wuan still had a favor to him, and he couldn't let King Wuan die in such a place. But King Wuan himself was close to a demigod. There was still hope in fighting in one camp, but I was afraid that Lulan Star would have other reinforcements. The murderous aura in front was getting stronger. From a distance, Su Xian saw the white bone general rising into the sky, and the area within 100 miles seemed to have turned into a hell of killing gods. Not only Su Xian. The movement of King Wuan also attracted the attention of the demigods of Lulan Star and Blue Star. They were located at the border of the sky and could still observe the huge movements of the battlefield with the help of special methods. King Wuan's sudden action obviously exceeded everyone's expectations. Including the Goblin King Kuro, who was resting in the 8th line of defense, Lulan Star camp. Kuro was confused at this time. What did he do wrong? Why did the three top kings of Blue Star, the Crazy Lion King, the Great Demon King, and King Wuan, all want to fight him? Has his secret been discovered? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 376. When Su Xian arrived, the battlefield had already turned into a world of bones. In the center of the battlefield, King Wuan, holding a huge sickle, rushed through the monsters. Every time he killed a monster, his murderous aura would become stronger. His aura was rising. On Lulan Star, Kuro and the three high-level Forgotten Ones were also constantly attacking King Wuan. At the same time, the army of Lulan Star began to form a blood magic circle. With the blessing of the magic circle, they were also able to threaten King Wuan. Huh? That aura. Su Xian, who was watching the battle secretly, looked at the Goblin King Kuro. The aura emanating from the other party made him feel an inexplicable attraction. And the last time he felt this way was Chaos Stone Fragments. Could it be that Kuro also has Chaos Stone Fragments? Su Xian remembered the information that Ching Ching had sent out at the time, saying that the Goblin King Kuro was suspected of mastering the technology to crack the protective formation. Perhaps it was related to the Chaos Stone. Moreover, according to the ranking of the two realms, the frontal combat power of the Mad Lion King is stronger than Kuro. The reason why the Mad Lion King failed to kill Kuro at all costs must be because of the Chaos Stone. This discovery made Su Xian interested all of a sudden. He did not rush to take action, but continued to observe the situation from the side. In his impression, although King Wuan was a little irritable, he was still very calm in dealing with the overall situation. Even if he was crazy for love, he would not be so irrational. Facing the siege of the entire army of Lulan Star and the 4 top king-making combat forces, even the strong King Wuan gradually fell into a disadvantage. But the aura of King Wuan was still rising little by little. It seemed that a storm was brewing. The huge phantom of the White-Bone General waved his sickle and killed all around, turning into a ruthless harvesting machine, but no matter how strong the machine was, it would fall into a state of stagnation and be injured. What is King Wuan going to do? Su Xian looked for a while and finally found the cause of the problem. There is probably only one reason that can make King Wuan attack the Lulan Star camp regardless of everything. That is, Pei Xiu's matter has affected King Wuan's state of mind, causing King Wuan to no longer be able to face cultivation with a peaceful state of mind as before. King Wuan, who has already touched the threshold of the semi-god realm, may no longer be able to suppress his own realm and is forced to break through. King Wuan's way of cultivation is different from other top kings. His main path is killing. When he can't control the murderous intent in his heart, his state of mind will be greatly affected, and he will also turn into a real killing god at this moment. After seeing King Wuan's purpose clearly, Su Xian is not so anxious. Quietly waiting for the battle between the two sides. Anyway, as long as King Wuan breaks through to the semi-god, his life will not be in danger, and he has nothing to worry about. It is not suitable for him to show up now. After all, the semi-gods of Lulan Star must be paying attention. If you want to take action, you can't use the identity of Shivali. Shivali's identity still needs to be retained. The battle ahead is getting more intense. The field of bones became wider and wider. The strong murderous aura filled the sky and earth and almost turned into substance. Swish. At this moment, the sickle in the hand of King Wuan, who was at a disadvantage, suddenly burst into a gray and blurred light, and the sharp sickle blade cut through the body of a high-level forgotten person. It was like a knife cutting through white paper, tearing it apart easily. How could it be? The Goblin King Kuro was shocked. When he saw the gray light, he finally understood something. King Wuan wanted to break through the realm in the battle. At the same time, kill them before breaking through the realm. After all, King Wuan was not a real demigod at this time, and he was indeed qualified to take action. Lulan Star had also used such means before. This was also a loophole in the agreement between the two parties. But why? It was always unlucky for him. Kuro wanted to cry but had no tears. He did not enjoy any welfare at all. Instead, several top kings of Blue Star took turns to use him as a stepping stone. Among the top 5 kings on Blue Star, only the 1000 Machine King and the 10,000 Thunder King are missing. Puff. While thinking, another high-level forgotten one was torn apart by King Wuan. At this moment, the aura on King Wuan's body could no longer be suppressed. The substantial murderous aura turned into fluid, dyeing the air into a distorted and blurred posture. It was like a blurred scene in extremely hot weather. King Wuan was panting heavily. He was still suppressing himself from breaking through. Once he broke through, he could no longer continue to participate in the war. So before participating in the war, he had to do more things. Killing one more enemy is a profit. Whoosh. 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 Goblin King Kuro kept manipulating the fighter plane and launching countless missiles. These missiles have various functions and can even isolate the induction between heaven and earth. If King Wuan was not in a peak state about to break through, he might not be able to win against Kuro. He had a hunch that Kuro was difficult to kill. He could only try his best before breaking through. If he couldn't kill him, there was nothing he could do. The shadow of the White-Bone General flickered. Shrinking. Merging. until he merged with King Wuan. The world of bones that spread for hundreds of miles disappeared, and all merged into King Wuan's body, and his body turned pale white. 100 miles of murderous aura gathered, and at this moment, he was like a real killing god. A flash of light passed by. King Wuan disappeared, swish. The next moment, the sickle passed through the body of the only remaining high-level Forgotten One and cut the Goblin King Kuro in half. At the same time, King Wuan, who used this attack, could no longer suppress his own realm. A strange phenomenon appeared between heaven and earth. A golden staircase emerged from the void ground. An ancient bell rang outside the distant sky. This is the sign of becoming a demigod. King Wuan wanted to make up the knife, but was stopped by the power above the sky. The one who made the move was still the strongest demigod Tianbaiyu on Blue Star. As a supervisor, he didn't want Lulan Star to catch any loopholes. The Goblin King Kuro in the distance breathed a sigh of relief, and his body gradually recovered. With the protection of the Chaos Stone symbiosis, his survivability is actually stronger than Shivali. It's just that his own realm is not as good as Shivali. Otherwise, the name of Lulan Star's strongest king should be changed to Kuro. Alas! King Wuan sighed. Did he fail again? He only destroyed 3 top Forgotten Ones and didn't kill Kuro, which made him quite regretful. The golden stairs condensed layer by layer and spread to the sky. Looking at this scene, King Wuan also had expectations in his heart, and he didn't know how many layers of heavenly stairs he could condense. Even the great Demon King didn't break the record, and he probably couldn't do it either. It's not that he is not confident, but after seeing the perversion of the 2 guys, Qinji King and the Great Demon King, he had to admit it in his heart. Now it is estimated that the only one who has a chance to break the record is Su Xian. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 377. The heavenly steps are condensed layer by layer. When they reached the 21st floor, the demigods again cast sympathetic glances at the lowest record holder. After the daily beating of corpses, the heavenly level continued to rise. Not surprisingly, King Wuan also quickly gathered 50 steps and reached the standard of a normal demigod. In the end, the number of heavenly levels was fixed at the 60th level. The 60th level is considered a threshold. Before King Wuan, a total of 16 of the existing demigods in the 2 realms had reached this threshold. Including the current King Wuan, there were 17 in total. Bai Shat, come to the boundary of the sky. A voice came from the sky. King Wuan shook his head. He did not go to the boundary of the sky, but rushed to the direction of Blue Star, where there was another person waiting for him. With the departure of King Wuan, the attention of the world also dispersed. The news quickly reached Daisy, the commander-in-chief of all races operations. This result is not unacceptable to Lulan Star. At the cost of 3 high-level Forgotten Ones, King Wuan, who ranks among the top 5 in Blue Star's combat power, can no longer participate in the war. Even Luo Langxing makes more money. Because Lulan Star has always had the advantage in military strength. The war between the 2 worlds is like a game of chess. Lulan Star has far more chess pieces than Blue Star, so it keeps pairing pieces to consume Blue Star's combat power. This is Lulan Star's main policy. Although the implementation of this plan has encountered some obstacles, it is still successful so far. Among the top 5 kings of Blue Star, 2 were promoted and 1 was seriously injured. Now only 1,000 Machine King and 10,000 Thunder King are left as threats. But on Lulan Star, Kuro and other top kings are still alive, and Shivari, the strongest king, is also there. The high-level combat power still crushes Blue Star. Other side. Su Xian, who is addicted to playing Mission Impossible, once again changed his identity. Silently moved towards the Lulan Star camp. At this time, Goblin King Kuro had recovered with the help of the Chaos Stone, but he did not realize that the crisis was coming. Ask your Majesty Daisy to send reinforcements immediately. After so many battles, more than half of the 23 high-level Forgotten Ones on Lowland Star have been destroyed, with only 10 remaining. 7 or 8,000 other Forgotten Ones have been destroyed. Correspondingly, with the sacrifice of these forgotten people, the positions of Blue Star's 17 bases also suffered varying degrees of damage. In the next attack, without the support of the formation points, the defense power of Blue Star's various fronts will be greatly reduced, and then it will be the best time to attack Blue Star. King, His Majesty Daisy has sent 2 high-level Forgotten Ones to come for support, the goblin assistant replied respectfully. Okay. Kuro waved his hand. From now on, until the Parliament's support troops arrive, the army will form a blood magic circle to be on guard at all times. Being visited one after another, Kuro now has a psychological shadow. Maybe the next one to come to your door will be Thousand Machines King Su Xian. He couldn't stop that ruthless man. In terms of the weirdness of his methods, Su Xian probably has the most methods in the 2 realms now. All kinds of forbidden magic and secret treasures are emerging one after another and are difficult to guard against. Before joining the war, Kuro had read all the information on Blue Star's kingship. In the database of all races, Su Xian has the most analytical data, even more than all the other top kings combined. Because there are too many unpredictable things in Su Xian. Just as he was thinking about it, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. Kuro's eyes narrowed. What are you doing? Before he finished speaking, Goblin King Kuro immediately activated his fighter plane. But the figure in front was faster than him. Boom. The fighter planes have not yet started. A long orange knife had already been inserted into the fighter's head. Immediately afterwards, endless pressure hit. The huge pressure made it impossible for the fighter plane to start. Kuro was shocked. When he saw the knife, he knew the identity of the person who came. Apart from the elusive king of Thousand Machines, there was probably no other person. Kuro cursed inwardly. Did he make the mistake of becoming the king? 4 of Blue Star's top 5 kings came to trouble him. This time, there really wasn't any reinforcements to protect him. The light on the chest flickered. Kuro knew that he could only rely on himself at this moment. Even the army's blood array is of no use to a top-notch king like Su Xian. As long as Su Xian doesn't take the initiative to rush into the array, the blood array will at best have some interference effect. After breaking away from the fighter plane, Kuro continued to retreat. At the same time, various technological weapons on his body were shot at Su Xian. Surrounded by these technological weapons, Su Xian could clearly feel that he was being hindered in some way, and his connection with heaven and earth was gradually lost. There really is something about this Kuro. But the more the opponent struggled, the more excited he became. The power of Kuro also represents the power of the Chaos Stone. Although he was constantly being bombarded, Su Xian remained calm and calm. His slight lack of connection with the world had no impact on him at all. With his strength, it would be easy to defeat Kuro. Aha! The magic sword Apophis slashed at will. Kuro's arm was cut off instantly, but it was quickly restored. Seeing this scene, Su Xian had a guess in his mind. It seemed that, as he had thought before, Kuro's rough stone of chaos should be accompanied by symbiotic properties. In this case, it is indeed difficult to kill Kuro. Because he has already tried, and with his current strength, he cannot destroy the fragments of the Chaos Stone. If Kuro is involved in the attributes of the Chaos Stone, then there is only one way to solve it. Dissolve. Just like dissolving the fragments of Chaos Stone before, use the special blood of his Chaos body to dissolve the characteristics given to Chaos Stone by the god. Whoosh! Su Xian's speed suddenly increased. The soul blade slashed down suddenly. The pain of the soul being torn apart made Kuro unable to control those technologies for a while, but Su Xian grabbed his chest in an instant. Boom! With one step, Kuro's power was sealed in an instant. He stretched his hand to Kuro's heart. He only felt an extremely powerful force blocking. Thousand Machine King. Kuro laughed grimly, you really came to seize the Chaos Stone. But the Chaos Stone has long been bound to my life state. The weaker my life state, the stronger the resistance of the Chaos Stone will be. He laughed wildly, no matter how strong you are, you can't kill me, and I have countless opportunities to kill you. Sooner or later, one day, The voice stopped abruptly. Kuro's smug expression froze little by little. He suddenly saw that Su Xian's hand turned into a red crystal-like spike, ignoring the resistance of the Chaos Stone and piercing into his heart bit by bit. How could it be? Kuro couldn't understand. Why could the Thousand Machine King break through the defense of the Chaos Stone? Even the strongest demigods in the two worlds couldn't do this when facing the Chaos Stone that had already recognized its master. What kind of monster is the Su Xian? He was unwilling, but he could only watch Su Xian's hand turned into a spike and pierced into his heart. Until the indescribable pain after being deprived of life spread throughout his body. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 378. In the pain and struggle of the Goblin King Kuro, Su Xian finally broke through the resistance of the Chaos Stone. The spikes turned back into his palm and grabbed the Chaos Stone that replaced Kuro's heart. The blood continued to purify the properties of the Chaos Stone. Just purifying a piece of Chaos Stone the size of a baby's fist made Su Xian feel powerless, and the blood in his body flowed rapidly. The complete Chaos Stone was indeed much stronger than the Chaos Stone fragments. As the Chaos Stone evolved, Kuro's vitality gradually dissipated, and he fell to the ground as a dried corpse. After doing this, Su Xian looked at the Lulan Star army. He did not continue to kill, because he could feel that Lulan Star's reinforcements were coming. Purifying this Chaos Stone consumed too much of his energy, and it was no longer suitable to fight. Whoosh! After collecting the Chaos Stone, Su Xian's body flashed with silver light and disappeared from Lulan Star's monitoring field of vision. A few minutes later, several figures descended. Looking at the dry body of the Goblin King Kuro on the ground, the reinforcement frowned and immediately sent an emergency message. Your Majesty Daisy, Kuro is dead. It should be done by the Thousand Machine King Su Xian. The reinforcement was Kaijuo, the second-ranked king of Lulan Star, from the Demon Clan. Unlike Kuro who relies on the power of technology, Kaijuo can rank second because of his pure strength and can enter the demigod realm at any time. Kuro is dead. Daisy, who received the message, couldn't believe it. How could this happen? Others don't know, but she knows that Kuro has the Chaos Stone symbiosis, his lifeblood is connected, and his vitality is so strong that it is almost impossible for him to die. There is only one way to kill Kuro, that is, to purify the Chaos Stone that is endowed with the attributes of the God's Messenger. But, with all the means currently known to Lulan Star, there is no way to purify the Chaos Stone that is endowed with the characteristics of the God's Messenger. Su Xian actually did it? What else can Su Xian do? Daisy's sense of crisis became stronger and stronger, and her fear of Su Xian was also deepening. He felt that no one in the entire Lulan Star could stop Su Xian. Even Chivali would be left behind by Su Xian sooner or later, not to mention that Chivali was still an unstable factor, and it was still unknown whether he was the real Chivali. Your Majesty, how should we deal with it? Kaijuo sent a message again. You will temporarily lead the army of the 8th line of defense. The second full-scale attack will start tomorrow. We must win this time no matter what. Daisy was getting more and more anxious. It was almost impossible to kill Su Xian now. The only way was to launch a full-scale war immediately while Su Xian could not affect the overall situation. Conquer the weak blue star. Understood. Kaijuo received the order and hung up the communication. Daisy sent another message, Zhaiming, how is Chivali's situation? Have you found any abnormalities? Zhaiming is the shadow servant created by the Chaos Stones Zhaiming according to her life characteristics. Normally, Zhaiming is attached to her body. He can also go out to monitor things for her. Zhaiming's hiding ability is even stronger than the demigods of the Shadow Demon clan. As long as Zhaiming does not show up, even the demigods cannot discover his existence. Shivali is normal and is currently recuperating in Blood Sea City. The shadow servant sent back a message. Daisy frowned. She had previously suspected that Shivali might be Su Xian's disguise. After all, it was not the first time Su Xian did such a thing. Now it seems that Shivali is still Shivali. The two appeared at the same time in different places, so Shivali in Blood Sea City could not be fake. After all, the news sent back by Zhaiming could not be wrong. In this case, she can also breathe a sigh of relief in the next battle. As long as Shivali can restrain Su Xian, it doesn't matter even if Shivali dies in Su Xian's hands this time. During the first full-scale attack, most of the array points of the 17 defense bases on Blue Star were damaged. This time, at least 3 bases on Blue Star must be captured. Just as Daisy was about to issue a strategic order, representatives of the Shadow Demon clan and the Succubus clan suddenly came to visit. Your Majesty, the plan failed. The representatives of the Shadow Demon clan and the Succubus clan said, Yinglong and Meijuan had successfully obtained half of the information on the doll's sorrow in the Bear Country, but they suddenly died on the way back. The killers were so powerful that they couldn't even perform the forbidden technique of the last word of life. I'm afraid it was the Thousand Machine King Su Xian who took action. Su Xian again. Su Xian again. Daisy gritted her teeth, unable to hold back the irritation in her heart at this moment, and smashed the crystal throne under her seat with a palm. Why is it always Su Xian? Since she came into contact with the name Su Xian, she has never accomplished anything. No matter what plan she made, it would be disrupted by Su Xian. From the supreme hunting order of the Sorrow Cave, to the prophecy of destiny in the Eternal Forest, to the war between the two realms, they were defeated by Su Xian again and again. And witnessed Su Xian from being only a marquis to the first king of the two realms. All this. Daisy was a witness. Why? Why? Daisy felt her heartbeat quicken, her blood boil, and the heat rushing to her head. This was an emotion that a commander-in-chief on the battlefield should never have. But when she thought of Su Xian, she couldn't help but feel angry. She felt itchy all over, as if there were countless ants crawling all over her body. Tomorrow. It's all tomorrow. Daisy comforted herself that everything would be revealed in the war starting tomorrow. Tomorrow she will use all her cards to win this battle. Su Xian can beat her countless times. But her. Just beat Su Xian once. On the other side, after killing Goblin King Kuro, Su Xian quietly returned to Blood Sea City. As for the shadow sent by Daisy, he had already noticed it. Now that the entire Blood Sea City is under his control, the shadow servants cannot escape his perception. The most important thing is that after returning this time, he felt a familiar aura on the shadow servants. The breath of Chaos Rough Stone. Holding a complete Chaos Rough Stone and 4 Chaos Rough Stone fragments, Su Xian's understanding of the Chaos Rough Stone also deepened. He was certain that the shadow servants were related to the Chaos Stone. In other words, Daisy must have a rough stone with other attributes that is different from Goblin Kuro's symbiosis rough stone. Daisy, Daisy, you are so scheming, the biggest secret cannot be hidden after all. Su Xian already had a plan in mind. The next step is to find where the Chaos Stone in Daisy's hand is hidden, and that's when he appears. I have been fighting openly and secretly with Desi for so long. It's time to come to an end. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 379. The third line of defense of Blue Star. Sun Xiaokong sat on the high platform of the city wall, looking into the distance. There were bursts of powerful aura rising there. Are we finally going to launch the second attack? Sun Xiaokong looked solemn. Thanks to the help of his teacher, the third line of defense located in the garrison area of Dragon Country is the most intact among the 17 lines of defense of Blue Star. But there are still missing array points. As far as he knows, some lines of defense have even had all array points removed. Without the assistance of array points, it would be difficult to defend against the fierce attack of Lulan Star with just a large protective array. Can you hold on this time? Sun Xiaokong's fighting spirit continued to rise. After receiving several enlightenments from his teacher, coupled with a series of high-intensity battles, his cultivation realm has also improved rapidly on this battlefield. Now he is a 7th grade Marquis. If this speed of breaking through the realm was placed in the past, he would definitely be a genius who dominated an era. But now he has restrained his pride. He just felt powerless. The teacher is now the strongest king in the two worlds, and he is invincible on the battlefield. The eldest brother has also gone to practice in secret. The second sister fell into a deep sleep, and she must be invincible when she returns. The third sister has also become one of the top alchemists in the two worlds, and now she can influence the entire battle situation. As the fourth disciple, he seems to be far behind. He clenched the dingai stick in his hand. Fight. There is only one way to become stronger, that is to fight continuously. Transform in battle, and find the way to the peak in the trials of life and death. Rumble. The movement in front is getting louder and louder, and the army of Lulangxing appears in the field of vision. Compared with the last time, the team configuration of Lulangxing this time is lower. But in the same way, the defense array of Blue Star has suffered repeated attacks, and the defense power has also been reduced a lot. The military strength of Lulangxing is still better than that of Blue Star. Woo woo woo. The alarm sounded. Sun Xiaokong jumped off the city wall and quickly entered the array point. This time, the army of Lulan Star hardly stopped, and turned into a torrent and rushed towards the formation and various formation points of the third line of defense. Sun Xiaokong immediately entered the combat state. The special life field spread. The invisible field enveloped the entire formation point, and also provided encouragement and amplification to the soldiers. Kill. The attack on Sun Xiaokong's formation point was a 9th grade Marquis life, 2 5th grade Marquis lives, and 16 forgotten ones. Sun Xiaokong was the main formation. Another 5th grade Marquis assisted. And 7 puppets with puppets attached to the death of puppets supported the formation. With the blessing of the formation point, as well as the feedback of many legendary equipment and special life fields, Sun Xiaokong's combat power was infinitely close to that of a king. He alone suppressed the 3 Marquis of the opponent. The violent fighting spirit became stronger and stronger. But Sun Xiaokong did not dare to relax at all, because other formation points were far from being so relaxed. He could clearly feel that the protection of the formation was constantly weakening. This meant that other formation points were being damaged bit by bit. Kill. Kill again. In the endless slaughter, Sun Xiaokong's fighting spirit burned like a flame. The dingai stick swept over and smashed a Marquis of Lulan Star with one stick. Boom. Another stick, and another 5th grade Marquis was also killed. The only remaining 9th grade Marquis could not withstand Sun Xiaokong's pressure at all, and was soon smashed in the attack of one stick after another. You hold on, I'll go to reinforce. After solving one array point, Sun Xiaokong immediately rushed to other array points for support without any hesitation. Just as he rushed out of the array point, the ground shook violently. Sun Xiaokong was startled and looked in the direction of the protective array. A crack appeared on the protective energy shield at some point. What happened? The other soldiers also looked at the center of the base in horror. How could it be possible? The protective array was broken so quickly? When did Lulin Star become so strong? Boom. Then, everyone saw a snow-white light rising into the sky in the base. That is. Seeing the snow-white rainbow, Sun Xiaokang's pupils shrank. Is that the Phantom Fox King? He actually rebelled. At such a critical moment, the rebellion of the Phantom Fox King was undoubtedly a fatal blow to the Dragon Country's Third Legion. The protective formation was broken, and the fighting power of King Chongming and King Wenel alone could not defend it. There are 4 kings on Lulin Star, plus a high level forgotten. The gap in strength is too great. What's more, the sudden rebellion of the Phantom Fox King and the damage of the formation also mean that King Chongming has been severely damaged. Phantom Fox King, you traitor, you will not die well. The shrill roar of King Chongming came from the Legion base. Tisk tisk, I don't know if I will die well, but you will die soon. The escaped Phantom Fox King smiled triumphantly. Good birds choose trees to live in. Blue Star is going to lose. I can't do anything about it, and I don't want to choose this way. As a human, you should always find a way out for yourself. The protection of the protective formation was greatly weakened, and the Lulin Star army rushed in instantly. Sun Xiaokang, who wanted to provide support, was once again targeted by several marquee lives. The 4 marquee kings and high-level forgotten people of Lulin Star quickly surrounded the struggling King Wenel and the seriously injured King Chongming. The formation would break after a few minutes at most. The incident happened too suddenly, and it was too late even to ask for help. If it really comes to that, they can only use the last weapon, the god-killing bullet, but the result of doing so is that all the soldiers of the entire Third Legion will be buried here. And the subsequent defense of this place will become extremely difficult. The Phantom Fox King was still smiling triumphantly, and suddenly, a figure holding a giant sword came from a distance, and the Phantom Fox King dodged the attack in a flash. Looking at the figure coming to reinforce, the Phantom Fox King crossed his hands in front of his chest and sneered, "King of 8 Desolations. Are you the only reinforcement? That's not enough." The King of 8 Desolations landed in the base, and the 8 Desolations small world unfolded. This means that the King of 8 Desolations has entered the second stage of the King's conferred king, the Realm Master realm, but facing the overwhelming combat power of Lulangxing, the second realm is still not enough. King Chongming and King Wenel were not happy about the reinforcement of the King of 8 Desolations. If the top king of conferred kings reinforced, there would still be a glimmer of hope. The King of 8 Desolations came, but it was just an extra corpse. Phantom Fox King, I will kill you today. Facing the 6 king-level combat forces of Lulin Star, the 8 Desolate King Miao Tian did not panic at all. He raised his giant sword and pointed it at the pale-faced Phantom Fox King. The latter laughed wantonly, "Don't talk nonsense. Your era has long passed. The story of reversing the kingship does not work here." "Really?" Miao Tian raised a contemptuous smile at the corner of his mouth, "Then today I will perform a good show of reversing 6 kills for you." As the voice fell, the violent plague restraints on Miao Tian's arms also fell off layer by layer. The violent breath swept the battlefield. The Phantom Fox King's face finally changed. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 380. Boom. The restraint fell to the ground. The violent aura spread, and the muscles on Miao Tian's arm bulged. The whole arm grew a lot, and the skin turned into a hideous dark red. His eyes also turned red. In the deepest part of his eyes, there were 2 blood lotuses flowing. The majestic blood made the several great kings around feel a sense of difficulty breathing. At this moment, Miao Tian was like a god of war bathed in blood. "Untie the restraints of the violent plague yourself? You are looking for death." The Phantom Fox King looked at the 5th old Miao Tian, who was in a violent state, and was quite frightened. The violent plague has been spreading in the battlefield of the 2 worlds for some time. Most patients will be exhausted and die of exhaustion after 1 or 2 violent plague attacks. Even if there is a restraint device to suppress, once the anger in the heart cannot be controlled, it is still difficult to escape death. And once the violent plague breaks out, it will not distinguish between enemies and friends. Is Miao Tian ready to fight to the death? No. The Phantom Fox King suddenly realized. He saw a trace of clarity in Miao Tian's eyes, which meant that he had not fallen into the violent blood power at all, but kept his inner clarity. Can he actually use the power of the violent plague? How did he do it? While the Phantom Fox King was thinking, Miao Tian had already turned into a blood shadow and came to kill him. This time his speed was more than twice as fast as before. Without giving the Phantom Fox King any time to react, Miao Tian had already killed the Phantom Fox King's head, and the giant sword suddenly slapped down, about to smash the Phantom Fox King's crown. Swoosh! The next moment, the Phantom Fox King appeared in another place. The Phantom Fox Phantom at the original place was directly smashed. Feeling the powerful force, the Phantom Fox King was terrified. Just one slap actually forced him to use his strongest means of escape. Stop him! Seeing this, several kings of Lulan Star surrounded him together. King Chongming and King Wenel also came to Miao Tian's side and fought side by side with him. 3-6. But they saw the hope of winning. Miao Tian was full of vigor and energy at the moment. When facing a stronger opponent, he felt happy in his heart, as if he had returned to his youthful vigor. In his body, the 4 forces of the refined demon sword body, the 8 desolations god of war body, the violent plague, and the supreme meditation lotus formed a delicate balance. After being tortured by various forces for countless days and nights, he finally found the balance point of these forces after receiving the legendary quality suit given by his teacher. His combat power also completed a qualitative leap. In his heart, there was even a kind of confidence that could reverse the demigod. Kill! The kings began a desperate battle. The battlefield below. The army of Lulan Star was still making continuous attacks, and the 8 Desolations King could only delay the combat power of Lulan Star's kings, and the situation below was still precarious. Without the protection of the big formation, the formation points on the Blue Star side were broken one after another. Sun Xiaokong glanced at the arrogant and wanton old 5 in the sky, and his hand holding the Dingai stick tightened a little more. He was also a disciple of the teacher. Lao Wu can turn the tide. He can too. Come on. This time, Sun Xiaokong went straight to the central main formation area, charging on the battlefield with an unmatched attitude. The fighting spirit continued to rise. He was like a burning bright flame. The other marquises of Lulan Star also cast their eyes on Sun Xiaokong, and rushed towards him one by one. Fighting against heaven and earth. The more you fight, the braver you become. Sun Xiaokong had only boundless fighting spirit in his heart. No matter how many came, he would respond. One person could be as strong as 100,000 troops. The huge special life field also invisibly enveloped the soldiers who charged forward together on Blue Star, and everyone was excited to kill the enemy. No one dragged their feet. The spirit of endless life. The courage to face death. The determination to never retreat. The ambition to protect the human race. All the high emotions turned into an invisible energy to nourish Sun Xiaokong at this moment. He is the only master of this battlefield. Born for war. Die for the battle. Always fearless, fight to the end. Continuously swinging his stick, smashing the heads of enemies one after another, Sun Xiaokong's body had long been stained with blood, but he was not tired at all. Under his leadership, the soldiers of the 3rd Legion were also more excited than ever before. The upper and lower battlefields were very stalemate. Until a shrill scream spread from the center of the battlefield, boom! Something exploded in the sky, blood splashed, and blood rain fell. A king fell. A king of Lulan Star was smashed into pieces by Miao Tian's giant sword. Puff! Before he had time to be happy, Lulan Star's high-level Forgotten also launched a superpower, and the arm exuding the breath of alchemy pierced the chest of King Chongming. The combat power of King Chongming, who was attacked by the Phantom Fox King and was already seriously injured, could no longer withstand such a heavy blow, and his life breath was sluggish. Chongming! King Wenl's eyes were red, he was filled with grief and anger. His old comrade was pierced through in front of him. His heart was trembling. He glared at the Phantom Fox King. If the Phantom Fox King had not betrayed him, how could Chongming have suffered such a heavy blow? Wenl, goodbye. After 2 consecutive heavy blows, King Chongming could no longer suppress his injuries. He knew that he would die here today. He was unwilling. How could he be willing when he had not yet seen the peaceful and prosperous times of the human race? What a pity. Boom. He could no longer resist the power of the high-level Forgotten person, and his body was blown to pieces. King Wenl went crazy and rushed towards the Phantom Fox King without caring about his life. The supreme meditation lotus in the depths of Miao Tian's eyes gradually withered. The continuous intake of blood and the deep-level effect of the violent plague made him almost unable to control his mind. I can't suppress it anymore. At this moment, Miao Tian also realized that he had to use all his strength to kill the high-level Forgotten person. As for whether his mind would fall, he had no intention of considering it. He could only hope that the teacher who was unknown where he was could give him a bottom line. The teacher's spiritual power was extraordinary, and he should be able to save himself with the help of the mind space. It has come to this point, do I still have to rely on the teacher? Miao Tian smiled bitterly, completely released the suppression of his mind, and the power of the violent plague was further integrated into his body. Boom! The violent blood and qi rushed up to the sky. Miao Tian was shrouded in blood and qi, and the giant sword continued to collect blood and qi around him. Wenl, go! His voice rang in King Wenl's heart. He could no longer control the rage in his heart, and the blood energy collected on the giant sword reached its peak. A force directly rushed Wenli out. Then, Miao Tian held the giant sword with both hands and slashed forward. Boom! The ground exploded, and the sword energy mixed with blood formed an endless pressure, which made the several great kings of Lulan Star unable to move, and Miao Tian himself was the same. Then, endless blood energy gathered and rushed up from the ground. The huge blood energy column covered a radius of 100 miles and rushed straight to the sky.